And we are actually heading straight into our next presentation. It's by Jérôme Mouly. He's working at Yole, which a lot of us probably know from their really great reports. We at Bartels are always especially excited about the microfluidics report, and I know that you brought some numbers, trends, and facts about the microfluidic industry with you. So, Jérôme, the stage is yours, and I'm excited to see what new things you can tell us.
Okay, so I hope you can hear me.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so I will share my screen now. Okay, so first of all, good morning for some of you, and good afternoon or good evening for the different part of the world you are. So my name is Jérôme Mouly. I'm the division director of the photonics and sensing activity at Yole Developpment. And first of all, I would like to thanks the Bartels team for the invitation today to show some of our results and trends in the microfluidic markets, and with this presentation about microfluidic market dynamics and trends in life sciences. So first of all, a quick presentation of Yole Developpment and our activities. So Yole Developpment is a group of companies. So we are, I presented here two main companies of the group, Yole Developpment, so that is the market intelligence and strategy consulting company, and System Plus Consulting, that is doing tear down, reverse costing. So we have also activities related to M&A, evaluation of companies, cost simulation, and also some access to the analyst for consulting. Regarding the activity, we are working around the semiconductor industry, and so the division I'm representing today is the photonics and sensing. And in this division, the topics we are covering are from photonics, lighting, display, imaging, and sensing, and especially so microfluidics, MEMS, biomems, for example. Regarding the services we are providing, so we have reports that is probably the one that you may know the most. So the most visible services we are offering. So reports, yearly reports on the different topics and subtopics covered by Yole in the semiconductor area. Quarterly monitors on specific components, devices like advanced packaging, CMOS image sensors, for example. Weekly tracks that are mainly related to consumer and automotive markets, and also custom services that are more specific studies we are doing for our customers to develop their business. So just going to the microfluidic market and a certain number of definition I would like to share with you. So in terms of microfluidics, what we define as microfluidics technology, and especially product based on microfluidic technologies, are the manipulation, handling of fluids that are in the range of microliters, 2 picoliters, and in the networks of micrometer size channels. The microfluidic technology is using a cartridge or consumable, and just what we are not taking into account in our market forecast are the lateral flow test or simple tests. In terms of type of test, so two main technologies or two types of tests are used, molecular test and immunoassay. And we can, if we are dividing it into from low throughput to high throughput, so low throughput related to point of care systems, to high throughput that could be found in central labs, we can see that most of microfluidic systems, microfluidic cartridge, are related to molecular tests mainly, but could be found anywhere in the different type of equipment, and in the 4 boxes that we are showing here. All those kind of applications, all those kind of boxes could have some pros and cons in terms of throughput, cost, etc. It could be also application driven. So for the segmentation we are using in our market, we have mainly the human diagnostic split in clinical diagnostics and point of care diagnostics. We have also the veterinary diagnostics, industrial, environmental, including agro-food diagnostics, tools for pharma and life science research that encompass the topics related to the next generation sequencing, for example, as well as the single cell sorting systems, for example. Drug delivery with the different kind of delivery system, including nozzles or spray devices, and the micro-reaction segments for more chemistries, for example. And so it comes to the market forecast that we have made in 2020. So I would like just to inform that those information are related to our 2020 forecast. We are preparing the update of the next report, but related to the status we had in 2020. So just at the beginning of the pandemic, it was how we describe the market and the forecasts of the microfluidic products market. So products means that we are talking about cartridge or consumable devices, so integrating reagents and the functions and packaging. So you can see there that our forecast, so estimations in 2019 was above $11 billion for this market, going to $25 billion market. It's a compound annual growth rate on this period of 14%, so quite dynamic market. And looking at the breakdown, human diagnostic is representing about 2/3 of this market, and still today we can see that probably the most dynamic market is related to the tools for pharmaceutical and life science research. So thanks to next generation sequencing applications. But it's also interesting now with the analysis we have started to implement in our next report 2022 is to see how the impact and how our vision has moved now. So it's clear in 2021, mainly 2020 already, we already saw an increasing demand for diagnostics, human diagnostics. But in 2021, so we see the COVID-19 reshuffled our data and the dynamics of this market. So we have seen for sure a huge increase of PCR tests and a spike in 2021 with a strong demand for analyzers and placement, including and mainly including the point of care systems. We expect in 2021 to be in between 17 billion to 18 billion market revenues for microfluidic products. And now we can talk about pandemic, from pandemic to endemic, because okay, we are not rid of COVID-19, but it starts to be endemic in some countries now, and we will live with. And what will be the next step for microfluidics industry and microfluidics products? We could talk about scenarios, and two scenarios that we can show you there. So one scenario related to the fact that with the huge demand for PCR tests, now we start a decrease in terms of demand. COVID-19 becoming more endemic, and people starting to do more antigenic tests at home, and just validation should be done by PCR tests. So less PCR tests could be done. And also with the placement of the huge placement of equipment, one of the scenario could be a slight decrease in terms of demand, and starting to move on again and to catch up the growth of the market that we expected in 2020. However, discussing more and more with the industry and collecting information on the trends in the market, we start to see that the scenario 2 seems to be a little bit more realistic. We could see a plateau starting in 2022 because of the huge placement of analyzers and equipment. More and more tests could be done, yes, and not only COVID-19, but a need also for equipment for companies and labs that acquire test systems to have their return on investment. Moreover, we have also to think about other applications, like next generation sequencing, for example, so the tools for pharma and research that start also to enter more and more in clinical applications, and so could be used now as a new tool for understanding the genome, and we will see also for protein sequencing so shortly. So about the drivers and what was the immediate effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. So as I said, so the huge demand for tests, the PCR tests as golden standard for immunoassays, and also the new needs for installation at the point of care. So we have seen a democratization of the installation at physician offices, in airports, also at company offices in certain number of companies. For example, in USA, we have seen that a certain number of big companies like Google, for example, ask for tests before entering the company or even at home. Vaccine development, so are also one of the immediate effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So vaccine development requirements using next generation sequencing to understand the SARS-CoV-2 and all the variants. For the medium and long-term effects, this large installation will need to be loaded, and so need to transform the current test also, or to add to COVID-19 detection other type of tests, so multiple tests, multiplexing, to have flu, COVID-19, respiratory disease, and more. Also, the effect on the population will be also to be prevented using tests. even testing at home with some solution that exists on the market. And in increasing requirement for genomic and proteomic research on COVID-19 variants again, but also for new type of vaccine that could be now so the next generation sequencing could be not the golden standard, but could start to be more and more standard. And just to remind also, just as a question of definition about the immunoassay and molecular test, that the molecular test could have a better effect at the beginning of the infection. So the PCR test could be again one of the golden standard for finding the COVID-19, the presence and the RNA with molecular test compared to immunoassay that needs to have the antibodies created and the presence and antiviral antibodies, for example, using serologic tests, for example, or in antigen that are more simple devices. To give you some also information about the legislation approval. So a lot of different system or tests, sorry, were using the emergency use authorization, the EUA, and receiving approval. So we can see that several approval were made depending on the different waves of the infection with the different of the pandemic, sorry, with the different type of variant. And you can see that several names so are listed here in the different phases of the waves. At the beginning, most of the big players like Thermo Fisher, Abbott, QIAGEN, Cepheid received their approval, but more and more we can see appearing smaller companies like QLs, for example, or Lumira Diagnostics that are smaller companies, startup companies that we will describe now in this next slide. So as an install based increasing, we would like to show or to mention a few players that had a lot of interesting, I would say, a lot of success during this COVID-19 pandemic. So Cepheid that developed, for example, a rapid 4-in-1 PCR test for SARS-CoV-2, flu, A and B, and respiratory virus. And their install base increased from 20,000 in 2019 to 40,000 in 2021. So they double the install base in this period. Illumina, that on the NGS side, has also increased a lot the number of instruments from 15,000 to 20,000 on the same period as an install base, and mainly because of the switch from research to clinical use for tests for the SARS-CoV-2, but also for oncology or other type of genetic disease or reproductive health. And the newcomers that we would like to mention, like UHealth, very interesting, founded in 2009. So this company has more than 10 or even close to 15 years now. But it's very interesting because we can see that those players that have more than 10 years are now were ready at the right moment, because 10 years could be an estimation of the time needed to develop a solution on this diagnostic markets. And we can see that they are coming at the right time with at the right moment with the right equipment, formerly for flu detection, fertility test, but taking the opportunity of the COVID-19 pandemic to develop the PCR test system that we know today. And also Lumera Diagnostic, that is a player in point-of-care application, founded in 2014, and that increased the install base from a few, I would say, equipment in 2019 to 21,000 in 2021. I forget to mention for Q Health that they had also 10,000 units installed in 2019, and there are more to 230 units, 1,000 units in 2021. So it's a huge placement, even if we are talking about a small device. In terms of ecosystem, so we have seen a real interesting period during the pandemic with a lot of M&As. So the numbers are quite high for M&As, more than $18 billion with, for example, Danaher Group acquisition of Alveron to increase their capability in terms of immunoassay development. Illumina that acquired Grail for 3.5 billion, and showing what we mentioned before about oncology, because Grail is a company that are doing synthesis of reagent for oncology. So showing the way of the new trend in this market. And a number of fundraising, so about 5 billion fundraising in the period 2020-2021. So a lot of investment in companies. So what should be and what will be very interesting is to see how the consolidation of the microfluidic industry will be in the coming years. So what next now? We talk about what next in the life science applications, and perhaps I will repeat myself, but in diagnostics, the point of care testing is still a major driver where the microfluidic technologies are implemented. So at physician office, airport, and home, coming more and more to home. The fact that we are going from single sample to multiple sample, and I show here, so on the right side, some of the tests that and samples that could be conducted in parallel. So showing that we are reducing more and more the time, and a lot of development were made to reduce the time of the detection. Knowing that it's clear that with a single sample, so the throughput is probably lower, but in certain type of application, it could have a great interest to have a very quick information. And also because so in diagnostic, the installed base of equipment increased and needs to be loaded again. So about the return of investment, I will not come back to this, but it's what could be seen. For the next generation sequencing, and if we are talking about genomics, from genomics to proteomics, so the price of DNA sequencing continue to decrease. So with the new solutions and solutions based on the semiconductor techniques and process using silicone and glass. What is interesting also to follow is the trend with artificial intelligence and machine learning to foster so the sequencing, and we have seen several collaboration or partnership, like for example Illumina plus Deerfield, PacBio with Google, and also BGI with GenCove. Those partnership show the way of the optimization for the sequencing, and to accelerate still the sequencing of genome. And again, proteomics, not limited to DNA. We are going now more and more to protein sequencing, showing the way or paving the way of personalized medicine. So, for example, in cancer detection, this should have a great interest for medical applications. Organ-on-chips that could be used in life science. So, okay, organ-on-chips will not fully replace the tests that could do in pharma or in cosmetics, but however, it could simplify the first phase or even decrease the needs for animal testing in the first phase of development. So building models and giving information in the early stage of development. And but today organ-on-chips, and it was mentioned by Frank Bartels before, it's a huge interest for organ-on-chips at the moment, but still a number of challenges are around this kind of application, mainly related to the throughput, also automation, and where instrumentation will play a big role, because most of the people using organ-on-chips are not well trained for all the steps and the process in using the systems, and also still cost reduction and building the model for the detection. If we are talking about also technical trend, it's one among several, but it was also mentioned earlier by Holger Becker, so related to the increasing of chip complexity. So you can see from 2000 and now 2020 or even 2022 that the microfluidic chips are more and more integrated with more functions, reagents, so an added value of the microfluidic chips themselves, and even going to instrument-free systems. So that could also benefit in terms of I would say easy use of systems, and in terms of use case in certain part of the world, for example, where you are not close to a hospital, it could be really benefiting. So it's going to my conclusions at the moment. So the microfluidic product market is expected to reach 25 million in 2025 from 11.1 billion in 2019. However, as I said, it will be updated in our next report. Scenarios are still open at the moment, and we will probably see very exciting development of the industry in the coming years, and see what will happen in terms of with the number of players on this market. We should expect this slowdown, but however, not a decrease, really decrease what we think, because of the large installed base of equipment, because of patients used to do tests for prevention. Again, investments and M&A were reaching quite high levels. So it's an interesting momentum for innovative companies using microfluidic technologies, and the acquisition could show the next step for life science, for example, in personalized medicine. So what next? Again, organ-on-chips. But we are not talking about wearables using microfluidics, low-cost NGS. So a lot of different things could happen. And yes, so I really invite you to look at this industry and the market, and hope that with our new report, we will give you more information and insights on the market and trends. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mouly. We are really looking forward to your new report coming out in July. While you've presented, we had one question in the chat. You estimated a microfluidic product market of $20 billion in 2023. Could you translate this figure into numbers of microfluidic cartridges required in 2023?
Yes, I can. So just I have the numbers front of me, just to give you a good idea. So yes, just the time that I'm finding it. So we are talking about the cartridge, the consumable.
Yes, I think it's consumable.
It's a lot of numbers. So in 2020.
2023.
Sorry. So in 2023. 2023. So we are estimating in 2023 at 4.4 billion, the microfluidic device market.
4.4 billion. Okay.
Yeah. But it's really depending on the ASP of the cartridge, because we are talking about polymer-based cartridge, for example, that are really low in terms of ASP compared to next generation sequencing that very high level. So it really depends on that. So it should go into more details. But if someone has question, I could give more information. You can reach me by email, for example.
That's good to know. And just one quick last question. Which trend are you looking forward the most in the coming years, you yourself?
I will perhaps repeat what Frank Bartels said about organ on chips. It's one area where everybody is looking at the moment. We are looking at this because it's probably the one that is the closest to us in terms of timeline. So that's why we are thinking about organ on chips as the next step. Because I mentioned several others like wearables, etc. So it's a real interesting topics, but too much technologies around it, microfluidics, but also some microspectrometers, etc. for the analytes on the body, for example. So organ on chips seems to be more a pragmatic or concrete solutions coming, but still again with a lot of challenges.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mouly. And with that, I think we head over to our next speaker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.